It's a special guest today. I've got back on the channel once again. I've got Mr. Geoffrey Heinzel from Ascendo Audio. What's up, Geoffrey?
Hey, what's up, Shane? Yeah, all good here. Well, here it's already afternoon. It's 3 p.m. So thank you for having me. Maybe not, the time you wake up,
Yeah.
because that would be in the middle of the night for me. But yeah, all good here. Thank you. What
Yeah,
about
yeah,
you?
yeah. Everything's great here. We just moved into the new place here not that long ago,
Yeah,
and everything's all
awesome.
set up. Home theater's all set up. And I know back, what was it, 2 years ago now, you gave me the little napkin drawing of the square subwoofer, the 28. And now it's come to fruition. I see it all over the place. I see it all over YouTube now, rather. So I know I want to talk about that a little bit later, but let's talk about some of the other stuff that you guys have been working on, or that's been available that I've kind of seen here and there, different places. This subwoofer here. So the 16, I always get questions about this one because they watch the 12 video and then automatically they just automatically go to the 16. So what's the big difference between these two subwoofers?
As you can see, the 12 is a vented version, and the 16 is a sealed version. Of course,
Right.
that's the biggest difference, but there is a lot more, differences that are not that obvious. So the 12 is a 600 watt RMS um, subwoofer, and the 16 is a 1 kilowatt RMS subwoofer. And as the name says, 16, it's a 16 inch. But also, it's actually rather a 17-inch because we use a high roll surround. So the cone area is that of a 17-inch, but the outer frame diameter is a 16-inch. And of course, a sealed subwoofer behaves different from a vented subwoofer. A vented
Mm-hmm.
subwoofer below the tuning frequency rolls off with fourth order. That means 24 dB per octave. And a sealed subwoofer rolls off, of course, with second order, which is 12 dB per octave. Normally, when you have smaller rooms, you have what we call room gain, boundary gain, which almost balances out the roll off of a sealed subwoofer. That's why the sealed subwoofers are also so popular.
Yeah.
But the data we're publishing on our subwoofers are free field. So that means we are not like other manufacturers give you the in-room response because each room has a different in-room response. Um, we give you the outside um, or what we call free field data, and the free field data is free of boundary gain and room gain. So that always comes on top. And as you show already, we show you all the measurement data. That means we give you the important information, what the subwoofer is capable of doing at each frequency, because other companies just tell you sometimes, yeah, our subwoofer does 120 dB, 130 dB, whatever. But they don't tell you at which frequency, because, of course, at higher frequency, it's easier for a subwoofer to do high SPL. And then they tell you, oh, yeah, my subwoofer goes down to 13 or 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever kind of
Yeah.
hertz. Yeah, each tweet or each smartphone goes down to 1 hertz, but that's not the issue. Can you hear it? Is it meaningful? Does it have enough output at that frequency they're specifying? Because this is also something else they're not telling you. So all this information you get for free here with Ascendo products. So you're not buying anything that you don't really know, and you can really specify the performance level you want for your theater, for your two-channel system with our subwoofers. Um, is there maybe more differences I would talk to your audience about for the 12 to 15 to 16, or you think that's enough?
No, I think that's good. Where would you place these two guys? Like are these for more like your standard living room type of systems? You know what I mean? Maybe something that doesn't require one of your big gigantic ones. Like, would this be like your jack of all arounder subwoofer rather? So I think your other
Well,
subwoofers like kind of like specialized. They have like a purpose to them.
each subwoofer I'm designing have a purpose to them. Each subwoofer is, I mean, look, the 16, of course, is not a subwoofer designed for very, very large spaces, at least not when you're using a single unit, right? I mean, I don't know if you saw the video we did at ISE. That was not this year, that was last year with 16 of them in a wall,
Yeah,
all moving together. And so, I mean, there were people coming from the other side of the hall screaming when we were cranking the whole thing, you know. It was just nuts, you know.
yeah,
So you can, of course, achieve with a bunch of them a whole much higher SPL, even at very low frequencies. And even, you know, I mean, we measured in that big hall, which has absolutely no room gain, we measured, you know, 11, 12 hertz. Of course, not linear, of course, always with that roll off of 12 dB per octave. But when you double speakers, you get 6 dB more because you get 3 dB more power and you get 3 dB more from the woofer by doubling it. Yeah? So, of course, this way you can design a system, and it's quite price competitive, I would say, when you use a bunch of the 16s, for example, compared to
right.
the, let's say, more high-end units, you know, like the 21 inch, for example, or something like that.
Hmm.
But of course, the 21 inch does very high SPL. I mean, we're talking literally over 140 dB at some frequencies. Um, in a much smaller space, right? So it's always when you look at the space occupied in a room, and the space is always a premium, doesn't matter where. You need to look what you really try to achieve with the system with the subwoofer, you know. So that's why, you know, the 16, the 12, they're made for rather smaller rooms. And when, you know, you don't really necessarily need full output levels down to, let's say, 5 or 10 hertz. Um, but when you want a good extension below 20 hertz, the 16 is perfect. You know, the 12, of course, not because the tuning frequency of the vents, it's around 25 hertz. So you reach probably in room response, maybe 21, 20, something like that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What is the port tune of the 18?
The 18, the one you see right here, to the best of my knowledge, is 26 or 27 hertz. So
Mhm.
you get, depending on the room, again, on the room gain and so on, you get a good extension down to probably around 23 hertz.
Is that the one that I reviewed back a few years back? I feel like it is.
Uh, I think it was the sealed one you had.
Oh, was
Didn't
it
you
the
have
sealed
the
one?
sealed one? What was it, the vented? I'm not sure. Maybe it
I
was
can't
the
remember.
vented, yes. Because we were talking, of course, about, you know, you were testing with infrasonic frequencies and you said, you know, it didn't go that low. So I think it was the vented one, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are wouldn't you? Are these classified as your kick subs? Not
Well,
these,
we
not the two
classify,
smaller ones, but these guys, the 18 proactive and these
well,
guys.
even the two small ones, we classify every subwoofer that has not enough cone area to go infrasonic with authority, with high SPL. We can, you know, call them kick subs, right?
Yeah.
So each 10, 12, 15, 18, even 21 for us is a kick up because even a 21 doesn't have enough displacement. That means cone area versus stroke
Hmm.
capability to really reproduce infrasonic frequencies with authority. I'm not saying they're not reproducing again 1 or 3 or 5 hertz. Yes, they do, but not enough to be meaningful, you know.
Yeah. Not enough where you're really gonna feel it
Yeah.
because usually the accordion style surrounds are just kind of limited in their excursion.
physics is physics, guys, you know, and there is a lot of wannabes out there, you know. I mean, I see it all the time, you know, posts. I read them all also, you know, like
Yeah.
you. And I see, you know, there is some guys having trouble lately with a 33 inch, which by the way is a 32 inch because there is only one vendor worldwide that makes that 32-inch frame. Of course,
Yeah.
to appear bigger, they call it 33, but it's not. So anyway, these 33-inch subwoofers they call, you know, they say, oh, now they're rolling off at around 60 or 70 already. And this is, you know, this is the secret sauce we're putting into our subwoofers. Our 32, you can measure linear up to 1K, right? So
Hmm.
just, and that means it's fast, it's, you know, speedy, it has good attack, even though we call it infrasonic subwoofer, but we're designing our woofers like a mid-range, a good mid-range, you know, with a lot of copper and aluminum in there and yada, yada, yada.
Hmm.
A lot of things I'm not talking about, of course. But, you know, there is a reason why our subwoofers are more expensive because we put sometimes three, four, five times more magnetic power and special, alloys in there that are not used in other subwoofers because all that costs a lot of money, and of course it costs know-how, knowing how to do things right
Yeah.
in a subwoofer design. So it's a mix of things, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another YouTuber that has a couple of 33s. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And he's got some pretty boxes. Like he made the boxes himself, and then they
Oh,
got
that's
like the
awesome. I mean,
plexiglass.
I
Yeah.
look, guys, I love DIY. Don't get me wrong, you know, but
Yeah.
you know, what I'm saying is, you know, all these parts come from pretty much the same space in China. You know, they make the same cones and they make the same voice calls and they make the same frames and magnets and you know all these kind of things. And maybe there is two, three, four companies. Don't get me wrong,
Mm.
but in the end of the day, it's the knowledge about how to design a motor to make a woofer fast and to make a woofer, you know, more flat in frequency response and of course to have a low inductance and you know all these kind of things and in the end of the day the roll off comes from the inductance, you know, let's face it, you know, and when the woofer has a high inductance, you know, that means there is less current going through because the inductance basically works against the current, you know, coming from the amplifier. And so the acceleration goes down. When the acceleration goes down, the force factor, then of course there is you got a slow woofer, a sloppy woofer, and so it's these kind of things that matter for us when we design subwoofers, when we design speakers, because you hear it. You know, you hear a clean, undistorted woofer when it has good attack, when it has good musicality. That means you can even hear the harmonics, you know, the fine harmonics, you know, maybe even the 10th order harmonics, you know, to bass, you know. Yeah, that all this is the difference how we design our products.
So you mentioned that there's maybe a few Chinese factories that are making like these 32s, and then some people are calling them 33s. Is there any Chinese factories making a 28? Or
Yeah.
is this a wholly just straight up just you just invented it? Like this is straight from your
Literally,
brain.
yeah. I mean, well, it's from my brain, yes, but of course, I wrecked the brain of a lot of very genius people around the globe here. It has been designed in conjunction with some engineers from Germany, of course, from China, from the US, and of course also from France, because I have been consulting regarding it also with Arnaud Labourie from Trina, for example. If you look at the form factor, you see that the cone is partly or almost as wide as the enclosure is. You know, that has a reason because it has been designed also as a waveforming subwoofer. And a waveforming subwoofer, for a reason, so the width is 80 centimeters. So what is that, like 30 feet, 30 inch, right? Something like that, maybe. Yeah,
Something like that.
maybe. Anyway, why 30 inch? Because when you do a waveforming system, the width distance from cone center to cone center and the height distance from cone center to cone center matters because the denser you put the woofers, the more control you have over your planar wavefront coming from the speakers. Yeah. So the planar wavefront coming from the speakers, when you have more control over it, meaning you have a higher cutoff frequency because it's not only important what your low cutoff frequency is, it's actually more important that you have a high cutoff frequency of your waveforming or double phase array system. And why is that important? Because when you have a dense spacing, um, the anomalies breaking up basically the planar wavefront, you shift to the higher frequency. And when you have less woofers, let's say only four woofers, then you have an earlier breakup of the planar wavefront. Yeah. And for that reason, we made these woofers very narrow and not very high, that you can place a lot of woofers in your front. Of course, we know it's an expensive thing to do, but
You know.
sometimes it's not easy to do that. And for the same reason, we also made it shallow. It's a foot deep only, so you are not losing much space behind the screen. So you can put a lot of the woofers in the front of the room and in the back of the room, that you have high control of your planar wavefront.
Oh, what kind of extension? Like these are classified as infrasubs, right? Like how low should someone expect these to go?
Well, I mean, then the question I would ask back is how much SPL you want to produce at which frequency, because in the end of the day, it goes down to 1 hertz. But at
Mm-hmm.
1 hertz, you will not perceive it anymore because, I mean, when you look at frequencies, frequencies, it's like when you walk, when you bike, when you take a car, when you take a plane, the resistance of air, right? If the movement slows down, the resistance of air also slows down. If you move faster, you have a higher resistivity of the air. So the lower the frequency, the less coupling the cone has to the air. So the bigger the cone area you have, again, the higher the coupling, of the air in front of the cone. So that means for very low frequencies, let's say 3 hertz or something like that, you need probably nine of them, to get really significant output. Yeah.
Hmm.
But if you say, okay, no, 6 hertz is enough or 9 hertz is enough, of course you need less cone area than for significant output, right? And also it comes down to the size of the room. So if you have a room, let's say with 2,200 cubic feet, I mean, you need less cone area than when you have a room with 4,400 cubic feet, because then you need 4 times the cone area to get the same SPL at that very low frequency. So it's in a way a meaningless question, when you ask me, okay, so how low does it go? Because then I need to ask you, so how loud you want to play at what frequency, and how big is your room, and how good is your room built? How much gain you get in this room, because the rigidity, let's say, of your ceiling, floor, and walls make a big difference in that, and the build quality of that room. So it's not a simple answer to that question. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, just because I've heard the 32 in the Trinov headquarters, so
Yes.
I've got a frame of reference there. If I replaced that 32 with one of these 28s, which one would be better? Which one would just play louder and go lower?
The 32, because the 32 has the same cone area as the 28,
Mm-hmm.
but the 28 has more limited excursion capability. So the 32 almost has double the excursion limits of the 28.
Got you.
And
Okay.
hence you can move double the air because it's cone area versus excursion means volume displacement of the woofer capabilities, right? And so, of course, the 32 gives more output, but the 28, because it's a very low Q design, so the Q of this woofer is below zero point 0.2. I mean, the system Q of this, the whole system is in the range of about 0.35. So it's a very, very fast design.
Yeah.
And that means it has much more attack, more punch. That's why we call it also a full range woofer, because you can play it literally from single digit up to 600 hertz. So you don't need a kick woofer with a 28 anymore. That was also my goal, also because of waveforming. I wanted to have a woofer that can, because waveforming, for example, doesn't have a way to integrate infrasonics as of yet, other than um, infrasonics woofer, in a two-way system, other than basically the pressurization mode. So I wanted to have and offer a single woofer that offers single digits up to the highest cutoff frequency, which is normally 120 hertz for the low frequency effects, and then still some, because you still have a roll off. After 120 hertz, you still roll off the woofer, let's say with fourth order. So two times fourth order means 48 dB, two octaves up, and that's around 500, 600 hertz. That's why this is the frequency, the linear frequency this woofer can play back easily.
Got you. Okay, okay. So I would need, or so they would need a couple of those at the Trinov in a Trinov size space.
Yeah, to replace
Yeah,
what is the capability of a single 32 right now. That is
yeah.
correct.
Okay. What's the X max and X mech of the 28?
The 28 has absolutely linear 21 millimeter each way, so it's 42 millimeters, and the 32 is 35 millimeter each way, so 70 millimeters linear both ways.
Interesting. Okay. So how heavy are these? Because I've seen some videos of you guys had like three of them stacked on top of each other.
Yeah,
Like, is this how feasible is that for like one person to like do a waveforming setup and hang on their wall by
it's
themselves? Is this
impossible.
pretty heavy? It's
It's
impossible. Okay.
impossible. We everyone that can carry one away gets one. That's what we said at the show
Yeah.
at ISE. They are about 130 kilograms. So what is that? 270, 80 pounds, something like that.
Oh my
So
god, for one of those? Jeez.
it's impossible to carry. So even, you literally need 3 to 4 very strong people to carry those. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Jeez, I had a hard time hanging a 90-pound sub. Some people are hanging those on their walls. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. The but is this the preferred waveforming subwoofer though, just due to its form factor, or actually you have some other thinner my bad, shallower subs here if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we do. It's just when you look at the output performance per space occupied,
Yeah,
this is by far the most powerful subwoofer we have.
that's the one. Okay.
If you look at the data, the measurement data, we also provide, of course. You see that the subwoofer is capable of outputting, I think, above 80 hertz, up to 143 dB SPL.
Yeah.
And that's only because we didn't find a bigger amplifier to test it yet. And we didn't test a single decibel of compression yet. So it's literally, limited by only the amplifier power. And we didn't find worldwide a more strong amplifier than what we tested it with. So we put 37 or 38 kilowatts in it, and it didn't go into power compression yet.
Which amplifier is that? Would you pair with that subwoofer?
It's not on the website yet.
Oh, it's on the
It's
website. Okay.
called it's called AIA 2-10K2 IS, and that amplifier we recommend since it's an infrasonic amplifier specifically designed for infrasonic frequencies, to have utmost control and also the current abilities in the power supply, because most of the amplifiers don't really deliver enough current to drive the subwoofers down to 3 hertz, 2 hertz, whatever. And so this amplifier goes linear down to 3 hertz without rolling off, and only at 3 hertz it starts rolling off a few dBs. So that's why we designed this amplifier specifically for all the infrasonic subwoofers, and we recommend it for the 24-inch, 32-inch, 28-inch squared, and of course the 50 and 80-inch.
Right. Is that does that come with a subwoofer or is that an optional thing?
It's an optional thing. I mean, if
Okay.
you feel like a speaker power can drive it, I mean, you can use a speaker power, but I tell you, it's only giving you the fraction of the output you could really get from the subwoofer driving it with a proper amplifier.
Would that amplifier that you're recommending run off a 120 or does it need like a dedicated like 220 or a 20 amp
It's
line or whatever?
dedicated to 20 because a 120 would require, to the best of my knowledge, I think a 32 amp breaker. And
Mm.
so with that one, we're using, I think, a 16, 17 amp breaker, something like that. So a normal standard 20 amp breaker in the US will do it. I
Okay.
see that Big Street Cinema has here some questions. Let me see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really.
of course. A bigger, I mean, if you know a little bit about speaker design, you know that there is something it's called Hoffman's iron law. And Hoffman's iron law says, you can optimize only two of the three things, efficiency, extension, and size. And so, of course, when you put any subwoofer, any loudspeaker in a bigger enclosure, the efficiency goes up in the bottom end. But also, you need to understand that um, the um, THD goes up because when you put a subwoofer in a bigger enclosure, the THD always increases. Because it's about the non-linearity functions in a speaker, and that has nothing to do with whether it's a tweeter, a mid-range, or a woofer, or a subwoofer, infrasonic subwoofer, or any you know shape or size or design of woofer enclosure, whether it's vented or sealed, or taper torn or transmission line or whatever. Um, Bigger means always better for more output, but also it means more distortion. So anyway, I hope that answers the question from Big Street Cinema here.
Yeah. I believe Big Street, don't you have an Ascendo setup? I think he does, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's on my Insta or something like that. I could be wrong. But okay, yeah. I hope to hear the 28 at some point in time. However, it's like I feel like maybe in my space, maybe the 32 would be more impressive. Just needing one, it sounds like the 32 would be the winner just for the infras. Yeah, I could be mistaken. I don't know. I'd have to hear it in person.
Thing. The point is really, multiple subwoofers are always better,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
matter no matter how and what, let's say, subwoofer concept you're having, whether it's waveforming, whether it's direct art, whether it's normal subwoofer setup. Um, if you have four subwoofers in a corner, normal calibration, alignment, it's always better. It's better. Two subwoofers is better than one, and four subwoofers is better than two. I'm not saying that necessarily 6 or 8 or 12 subwoofers are better than four, but if you know what you're doing, you can achieve maybe better results. It's just about more extension down low when you have more subwoofers also.
yeah.
So it's really the concept you're trying to achieve. If you have, let's say, a smaller room, a single bigger subwoofer like a 32 or 24 or 28 squared, We'll do it for the infrasonic frequencies, but still for the higher frequencies, I would recommend more subwoofers is always better.
Yeah, of course it is. The my main goal is to not disturb the neighbors as I already have been.
Yeah,
Let's go to your speakers now.
yeah, yeah, sure.
So you guys came out pretty quickly with when I did that review on like the sixes. You guys automatically just came out like the next year with a totally different design. I was just like taken aback by that. I was like, "Oh, what are you guys doing to me here, man?" Were those like are these the same speakers or is it just a design change that you did?
Well, we constantly improve our speakers. We're not even talking about it. We're not telling anyone, but we do literally. I wouldn't call it every production run because of course we run productions on these in like 500 or 1,000 per lot, and sometimes we do an improvement, whether it's a crossover part, whether we improve the internal damping, the internal stiffening, the vent design, the tweeter design, or even the woofer design. Um, we always try, to optimize the speakers, and the customer gets better performance. More smooth frequency response on axis, off axis, maybe a little bit higher efficiency. It's we are working constantly on all of these products, and of course, when there is a new model coming out, we call that a new model. But in the end of the day, um, we try to implement all what we learn, and we learn constantly in all our speakers. So
Well,
as you can,
so this
sorry,
is new. Like I have not seen this one yet. This is the first time I'm seeing this. This is a super cool one too. This is
yes,
like
yeah,
the six passive narrow. So obviously
yeah,
this I would assume it's the same as the other one, but just narrow.
yeah, correct.
Okay.
From a design perspective, what we try to do here is you can put a speaker in a different form factor, but
Yeah.
when you keep the net volume of the enclosure the same,
Yeah.
it has the same or very, very similar performance since the driver is the same, the crossover is very similar, and hence the maximum SPL, the on and off axis response from the driver is the same, so you can be sure that the timbre matching, of all these
Mm,
loudspeakers, when you need, let's say, a different form factor, a different angle, or whatever, is the same on all these speakers.
got you. Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool one. I've not seen this. First time I'm seeing that one.
Yeah.
And then you have hold on, what is this? The pro passive. So then the six passive on wall versus the pro passive. I believe this one has the switch on it, right?
Yeah.
The attenuation switch. Yeah. Okay.
It's more than an attenuation switch, actually. The switch is actually a double EQ. So when you turn the EQ, I call it an EQ off, or it's shown as an attenuation. It also attenuates, but not the entire speaker. It's only in the high frequencies,
Right.
um, where the tweeter has a little bit of a ripple, and when you turn that EQ on, the ripple is gone. So we designed that for critical listening, for two-channel listening, for high end, basically, because it's a very,
Mm,
very high-end sounding speaker.
yeah.
But when you turn it off, and this is what I recommend for home theaters, especially when you have an auto calibration system, like a Trenov, like a Storm or Marantz or whatever, then you can turn it off and you benefit from a little bit higher sensitivity, but the auto calibration system then takes that non-linearity of the tweeter away, right? So this is the thinking behind the design of that Pro speaker.
This also has the aluminum front baffle, if I'm not mistaken.
Front and side. and sidewalls are brushed black aluminum or black anodized aluminum. Yes.
Yeah,
So
this is true.
the
Yeah,
benefit of that enclosure is also that it's a dual layer design. So there is aluminum outside, then there is a damping layer, which is also at the same time used as glue.
yeah,
And then there is an inside layer, which is wood. So you have a sandwich. And so it's a much stiffer enclosure. Stiffer enclosure means, of course, less anomalies. And so the speaker enclosure becomes less a sound source, right?
right. Yeah, I got to check this one out the last time I saw you, and I was impressed because it was like really nice. Because I don't think I've ever held like an aluminum speaker before, so that was pretty
Um,
impressive.
so Big Jack, what do you mean by tell us more about the six passive in-wall? So you mean how the in-wall conversion kit works? Because we do not have
No in walls. Yeah,
a passive in-wall speaker. We only have an in-ceiling speaker on the left here, the Pro Passive.
yep,
And that is designed as an in-wall or in-ceiling speaker, of course, like any in-ceiling speaker. It has a very high sensitivity for an in-ceiling speaker and also a fairly high power handling. And as you can see, it's a very shallow cone design, and the tweeter is very forward outside, so you have a very good off-axis response of your tweeter, much better than the standard in-ceiling speaker. But maybe you refer to an in-wall conversion kit of the normal six on-wall, which we also have. So when you have the six passive on-wall, there is an in-wall conversion kit which you buy, and you convert that speaker then as an in-wall speaker. So you screw a plate to the speaker enclosure, which is a little bit bigger than the enclosure. So you make a cutout in the wall of the size of the enclosure of the speaker, and then you screw that mounting plate onto the wall, and it comes with a magnetic held grill, a frameless grill, which you attach then magnetically to this in-wall kit. And you convert this loudspeaker with the same performance as the on-wall to an in-wall loudspeaker, and you can enjoy the same speaker as an in-wall loudspeaker. It's maybe not the best solution like other companies do in-wall kits, but it's the only way to use this as an in-wall loudspeaker today. And we have a lot of dealers and customers, they like this. Of course, in the future, we will eventually come out also with a true in-wall loudspeaker,
yeah.
um, but today we don't have that.
You do have a white version, which looks like you're trying to make it a little bit more friendly for the living room. I see.
Yes, correct. And the white version is a gloss version, so it's not a matte paint.
Mm,
And as you can see, it comes with like a melange white grayish kind of grill. And that grill we choose because you never find a perfectly matching white stretch fabric material. And
yeah,
also the white stretch fabrics, they also are always a little bit see-through.
yeah,
And we didn't really like that. So this is why we choose this material, because you can combine it with more things than with a pure white material.
yeah. It looks nice actually
Hmm.
for white speakers.
Yeah.
And then we've got, I believe these were the same from last time I saw these. So I think the biggest one was, the biggest change you had was that the 6 Slim, from what I saw. I've yet to
Yeah.
hear these. I've been wanting to hear. Oh, wait, no, I heard this at the Trinov.
Oh,
Yeah,
you heard those.
I just
Yeah.
didn't get to see them though. It's a little hard when you don't get to see them. Like I feel like you have to see them to, to get the full effect.
Yeah. See, that's the problem
Yeah,
behind screens. You never get to see the loudspeakers, but
yeah. I mean, it sounded good though.
this
Right.
was one of the reasons, where at last M-Wave, we had the Black Swans in a big room as a two-channel system, so
Yeah.
you really could see them, and hear them perform as a critical listening loudspeaker, which it's absolutely amazing at.
Right. But you said the six pro passive. That's more of your audiophile esque on wall for that size.
The pro version of that, yes. I mean, even the normal version is a very, very good sounding speaker. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the price point and the performance, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are the directors which I got to hear in the Arled Cinema. Are these a pretty big seller or what? Because I think now that the micro LED TVs are kind of coming down in price, I would assume that these are going to be a little bit more popular, be more in
We
demand
are we
rather.
are selling a few of those. Yes, that's true. I mean, it's still quite pricey, to have, let's say, I mean, what means down in price? If you have a big screen, it's still $500,000.
I
So
mean,
it's
they've
still
got.
not cheap.
I mean, AWOL's got a 163 for like 50,000 now. So I mean, it's getting down there.
Yeah, it's just our customers. They go more with like 5 meter, 6 meter wide screen. So that's a different story.
Okay, okay. The giant screens,
Yeah.
but they're coming down though.
Well, yeah, I mean, we
So
had it also at Last Cedia. I mean, we had a room dedicated to the directors, and
yeah,
people could hear them there. Yes.
yeah, very. Yeah, again, like when I was there, I felt like I definitely had to be kind of like in the middle, in that middle row there to really get the full effect.
Well, for every loudspeaker, you have to be in the middle row to get the perfect effect because there is
Yeah,
no alignment that is perfect. If you're not in the reference listening position. Um, I mean, if you look at RP22, this is really, really difficult to achieve for all seats, or almost impossible to achieve for all seats, and especially when you're talking a larger uh, room, a
yeah,
perfect critical listening effect. Because physics is physics. The way these immersive systems work and are designed. You need a perfect time alignment to get the perfect sound bubble. That's a fact.
What's I have a guy who's on my Patreon who's planning on getting like a 220-inch micro LED wall because he's building a new house, new theater, like a big, huge theater. So he's been on the fence trying to figure out the best speakers for this micro LED he wants to do. So I pointed him to these speakers here. And I think he was also kind of shopping around for, I forgot who's the other brand that has one, but one of the other
Every
brands
brand
has,
has every
yeah,
brand has an LED screen speaker, but the question is, can they really match what we do, and are
yeah,
they really designed for it? I mean, just to call an LED screen wall speaker an LED screen wall speaker doesn't make it one. Because physics is physics, and you cannot overcome physics. I'm sorry. And there is all kinds of different technologies. I mean, some people even call a line source speaker LED wall speaker, which is questionable, or maybe normal loudspeakers, with a tweeter and a midwoofer, or even two midwoofers. It's really difficult, to do this physically, um, to make it appear from the center of the screen, without having, let's say, balancing speakers, so basically above and below the screen speakers that
yeah,
pull down um, the image. It really depends on the angle. So if you have an angle less than 20 degrees, um, to the loudspeaker, you shouldn't really need a balancing speaker. But when you have or sit at an angle more than 20 degrees to the above or below loudspeakers for that matter, um, you would definitely need a balancing loudspeaker. This is what we would recommend, and we would only recommend direct radiating loudspeakers because when you do a reflecting loudspeaker off of the screen, you get a lot of phase shifts, anomalies, comb filtering effects, and whatnot.
Right.
A lot of people would say with a balancing speaker, you get also comb filtering effects. That's true, but it depends on how you calibrate it. If you calibrate it with the same volume level, let's say the below speaker, the same volume level as the top, yes, you get definitely a lot of comb filtering effects. And sometimes some comb filtering effects up to maybe even 3 decibel is possible, but sometimes you get much deeper dips, maybe 9 decibels or something like that, when you do the same levels. Less filtering effects down to 3 dB. You only get when you reduce the balancing speaker by a lot, so maybe by 10 dB or so, and then play with the timing. But it's possible. We did it and we know how to do it. And so when customers buy our systems, we are certain that it works because it has been proven time and time again, that you get just the best sound. And also we have direct radiating AMT tweeters, which have less compression ratio and much finer resolution. And we get also with our speakers an asymmetrical sound field. That means wider dispersion in the front, more narrow dispersion in the back, which is quite clear. You need a wide dispersion in the front and a more narrow in the back because you want to direct more energy towards the back to get less SPL difference, from the back to the front.
Is there a recommended for using these speakers? Is there like a recommended distance that you want to be from the speakers to the main seat?
Oh yes, we have absolute recommended distance and also room height. How these speakers must be installed. I mean, they're not designed for any room in every room, and not for any listening distance in every listening. So I mean, they must be followed strictly to have the best effect.
Gotcha.
Let's actually ask a question here. Let me see.
I know AO Felix says, in my back room, I have Perlison S Series 746. In my front room, I am now doing an Ascendo system. I have 5 6Ps gloss paint with the grill. Can't wait to see it. Oh, sounds like he's getting those white
Oh,
ones.
yeah, yeah, nice.
New customer. Big Street says the carbon horn they made for the Black Swan is legendary. The most beautiful thing I ever seen.
Yeah, we use a cast carbon, which is being used in the most fancy, sports cars today. If you look at their spoilers and carbon appliances, and it's also the most expensive, and if people want, our loudspeakers, for example, to match their carbon parts in their super sports cars, we have it.
I was going to get a Bang & Olufsen theater, but instead went with the 36P narrow below the TV. I imagine it will destroy the B&O soundbar. I hope so.
Well, you definitely get more SPL and more dynamics than from the B&O speakers. The B&O speakers are good speakers, don't get me wrong. It's just designed for lifestyle. We're not necessarily designing for lifestyle. We design for performance and bang for the buck. And so you definitely get that here.
Crossover wise, do I need 110 hertz for the 6P narrows?
No, absolutely not. You can cross them over at 80 and maybe give it a little boost. But this is what the automatic calibration system will do anyway. So no, you should be fine actually with lower frequency.
Why did you decide to go for your in-ceiling speakers? Did you not add a backer box to it?
Well, normally in-ceiling speakers, just for cost reasons and for effort reasons, don't go with back boxes. I mean, you can buy any back box if you want. There is
Mm.
there is plenty of them available in the market, and we have a standard 203 millimeter cutout, so you can have basically the 8-inch cutout, which any standard 6.5-inch speaker has in the market, and replace it with that speaker also. So none of these in-ceiling speakers in this price category have usually back boxes, but you can buy them, like I said. And a back box will do the following: a back box will um, give it a little bit higher Q. That means you will get less extension, but a little bit more boost in a certain frequency. So, for example, if you have, let's say, a 1 cubic feet back box for that in-ceiling speaker, you will maybe get less extension, but a boost at maybe 80, 70 hertz or something like that. And after that, rolling off. And if you have a big ceiling, with more volume, you get always a bigger extension or better extension down low. Hoffman's iron law. We talked about it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For in ceiling, would I be better off getting 6Ps and putting them in the ceiling with a cutout, or going for the in ceiling sixes?
I would get 6Ps because the 6Ps have more SPL output by, yeah, almost 10 dB, 9 dB. So definitely the 6Ps, because the defined enclosure and also a little bit different driver design gives them the capability for higher power handling, for higher efficiency, and this leading to, of course, higher SPL.
And where can they, I don't know if you know, probably Todd would have to tell the people where they would go to experience an Ascendo home theater setup.
We have in the US today, I would be lying, but between 10 and 15 dedicated home theaters with dealers you can listen to, or maybe you find a guy that bought one of our many home theaters, and he lets you experience it in your neighborhood. So this is something our US distributor, Todd Sutherland, needs
Yep.
to answer, of course.
So any questions, definitely leave them in the comments section. Shoot me an email, and I'll get you in touch with the Ascendo guys to get your own Ascendo home theater or 28-inch subwoofer for waveforming. Keep in mind they're like 200 pounds each, so they're no joke. But thank you, Geoffrey. I believe you said you're going to be at CES this year.
Oh, we will be at CEDIA, not
Oh,
CES.
CEDIA. Okay, CEDIA. Showing off some new stuff, or showing off the 28s again?
Oh, I can talk about that. Otherwise, I have to kill you. You know, you know how that works. No, but please come by, Shane, and we will show you around and
Yeah.
show you what we got. But we are partnering with Seymour Screen Excellence again. We're doing a reference theater again this year, and we also have a dedicated static area for meeting and showing our products and eventually new products. So yes, please come by and visit us. And if you have more questions, of course, let us know at Shane's channel, and we will answer them as diligently as we can.
Sounds good, Geoffrey. Guys, thanks for checking out the video. Make sure you hit that like button and leave any questions down below.